Welcome, my name is Robert Schmid, Deloitte Digital's Chief IoT Technologist, also known as Mr. IoT. This week on Coffee with Mr. IoT, my co-host Rachel Mohrmann and I are talking with Joann Michalik, and our subject is smart buildings, or as I've put it, buildings are talking back. Welcome, Joann. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Robert? And Rachel and all the guests?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm really excited to have you. I know we had some technical stuff last week, so I appreciate you being patient with us and coming back and being on this week. So quite exciting. I don't know. What does that mean, buildings are talking back? I know I came up with it, but I know it's your topic. So.
Well, you know, a few years ago, it was all about connecting environmental stuff, you know, solar, energy management, trying to keep energy really under control and sustainable. Now what's happening is they're connecting coffee machines and they're running Ethernet through Ethernet cables are powering lights. So what we're seeing is all the technology in the building is interacting with the people, and all the technology is making decisions related to what they're going to do, how they're going to manage themselves. And so I think before long we're going to see a situation where it's just like Star Trek. We'll talk to the building will come on the computer, and our whole use of computers is eventually going to go away. So I think it's really getting out there.
So you mentioned Star Trek, and I feel like this topic's come into our conversations before. Maybe that just proves what big geeks we are. But so what do you think people think today is super futuristic, but is actually right here in front of us? What do you think's kind of right on the horizon, and yet almost feels or sounds like it's straight out of sci-fi?
Well, I'll give you one example. We have a building called The Edge. Many of you may know that building. It's in the Amsterdam. It's the office building for Deloitte. That building connects every single piece of equipment and every single device in that building. You can up and down the lighting automatically. You can schedule people to their office. And what it'll do is it'll consolidate all the scheduling such that you don't clean floors that aren't needed. You have rainwater collected for toilets. You have the cafeteria notified about I have less people in the building, so I don't need as much food today. You pre-schedule Uber, and they actually queue up Uber in advance of actually knowing because they got the predictive analytics about Uber. So the building actually works for you. What I love about that building, as wild and geeky as it is, 28,000 sensors, everything automated, you go in that building and you say, gee, this is a really nice building. But you don't feel like it's heavy technology. You feel like it's just an office building. And yet, everything's connected in that building. And I think that's what's going to happen.
And was there a cost savings associated with that as well? Do you know?
Well, that building produces 102% of the energy it consumes. So it actually generates more energy than it actually uses. And they have electric cars. You know, they plug in their cars. They plug in all their devices. They run all the energy for the heat and cooling of the building. And yet with all of that, it's still 102%. So when they look at it, they have definitely met all their targets. They find it's an ongoing cheap building to operate, if you will. And at the same time, they're looking at the next generation of solutions. What are they going to do next? So I think it's a success.
Very cool.
So Joann, how smart is the building you live in?
Well, I do have solar. My house is, you can probably see from the background, this room is over 300 years old. So it's got some learning to do, to say the least. But we do have solar. We have upgraded everything. And I have seen where people have used different types of technology, like what you can get from Amazon and talking back to you and wireless lighting and so forth. And we're actually looking into that right now.
So I like watching what people do. We hired a guy from a company called Notion, and what they do is they make these cookie-size sensors, and they have about 8 different. They measure 8 different things. And what you do with them is you put them throughout the house, and it replaces a variety of other things. But the things that I liked the most was, and this is so much what I think about smart buildings. So I've put them up, and I get this notification, so that is talking back to me. But what's really interesting is that it has a water detection sensor, so you can put it next to the washing machine, and if the washing machine has a blowout, then you find out, not by your person that lives below you, but right there. And so it really penetrates in the consumer market. What are you seeing right now with our clients that you're doing around smart buildings? I know I've been involved in a few pursuits, but I'm curious, what do you see, and what do you find the most immediate, like the immediate things people can start to do that show value?
Yeah, there's 2 things that we're getting a lot of questions about. One is related to what's the business case and what can I pilot today? And what we're really seeing is the nature of work is changing. So millennials aren't lasting at current employers. We said as much as 62% say they're going to leave in 5 years. They want mobility, they want flexibility, they want to be able to interact with the building in different ways and come to work and behave differently. So figuring out how to get a building to deal with this new workforce, big pilot, big key, big need. The second thing I'm seeing is the economics started all about renewables, sustainables, and so forth, and those economics actually will vary based on where you are in the world. For example, in the U.S., the cost per kilowatt hour can range from 4 cents all the way up to almost 20 cents. So the economics of a building, based on where it is located, can change pretty radically. So those type of questions in economics are really the questions that we're getting from clients right now. Can I pilot the solution, and will the economics work for the place I want to put the building?
So you mentioned the economics, and as we talked about just 2 seconds ago, the technology seems to be there, and I agree, millennials are definitely a new breed, so there's lots of benefits. But what's the challenge then? I mean, it seems like there's a lot of winning. Why aren't all our buildings connected? Why aren't we utilizing this technology across the board?
I think where I'm seeing clients, they're a little bit confused, and they're confused in 2 areas. One is everyone and their brother has got onto the IoT word. I can do IT, I can do IoT. It is just like everyone says they can do it. So clients are bombarded
Robert,
with,
we've never heard that before, have we?
No, I know, Robert.
I'm confused sometimes, and I admit it at least, that there's a skill to knowing when to be honest about being confused.
And the way I look at it is, yes, there are a lot of providers out there who can integrate the data. They can populate it to the cloud. Where the challenge becomes is what data and what experiences are important. So, for example, right now, is it important that I can find and schedule and set up a workplace for a new person coming into a building? That's probably something you want to do. Is it important to have automated security in the building? Maybe. And you start getting down this tier of things that are important for you, and that, I think, is the real challenge. What's the business case? What technology is important? And, oh, by the way, not every single app and every single connection is important. So that kind of thinking really is driving a lot of confusion, and I think actually a lot of opportunity for people who are smart enough to put it together.
Are there leaders in this space? Are there people that are connecting the dots kind of at a more rapid pace than others? And what kind of benefits do you see from them?
Well, so I work a lot with providers of equipment that go into commercial buildings. They all have their own offering. They all have their own platform. The challenge really is getting them to work together. So Philips has lighting over the Ethernet, and their solution will have as many as 28 sensors in their lighting. If you look at Schneider Electric, they have a software backbone to collect the building, all the electrical, environmental equipment in the building. You talk to GE, they have the Internet of Things in their Predix solution. They all have pieces of the solution, and frankly, a lot of them work very well. The issue is those are not a complete solution. So getting that integration for a full building solution and architecting it and getting people to align and partner for that solution, that's where we're finding the next horizon. And, you know, frankly, I'd like to think that we're a good solution, Deloitte's a good solution to bring people together to do that type of integration. But I think that's a challenge.
If you're just joining us, I'm Robert Schmid, Deloitte Digital's Chief IoT Technologist, and you're watching Coffee with Mr. IoT. Today, Rachel and I are talking to Joann, and we're talking about smart buildings. So, Joann, I have a question for you. Actually, I have two questions, and you can take them in either order. One, you talk about bringing in new people, and really you talked about the workplace being enabled for the millennials.
Right.
How good do you think Deloitte is doing with that? And that's one. And the second question is, you talked about the ecosystem and how you have to work with multiple partners. I'm curious, do you think we're going to see another ERP for IoT in the making, or is it going to be more like it's in the cloud today, where you take point solutions and integrate them together going forward?
I think all the millennials first. That's a way easier question than the second one.
I must admit, I lived through the ERP differences, and so I'm intrigued by that question. It's a good question. Okay, let's deal with the millennials first and the space and the workplace place. Most indications are that Deloitte is in a leadership position in terms of having the apps that each and every person has. You walk in a building, you put your iPhone up to a projection, it automatically gives you connection to that, it connects to your lockers, you can actually see, and you don't need a control panel for the projection any longer. You got access to the room, you can find your... I mean, I think we have a lot of the basics in our apps. Are we done? No. Is there more to come? Yes. The things I'm thinking about is, why do I need the device? What happened to voice recognition? Frankly, I'm not big into typing, and I think I make more mistakes typing than I do when I'm talking. You all can judge that. But I think the key thing is, I think there's more to come, and I think we'll see more to come. Making that connection to the space and the work and how we do work and crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, and collaboration, all now, and we're still sorting it out.
And that collaboration, are you utilizing those millennials as part of it to make sure it's addressing the needs, or how do you plug them in appropriately?
I think we have done a pretty good job in terms of surveying, talking, getting personas, and I'll give you one statistic I recently heard is that in the Edge building, it's a Deloitte building, that particular building had a huge increase in applications following the actual setup of that building, and when you survey the people, they actually say one of the number one reason that they now are applying to Deloitte in this war on talent is because of the building. So there's something right in that building, and that millennials, who we hire a lot of, really would like to be a part of that. So do we understand it totally? Maybe not, but we're in the right direction.
I want to go work there too. Does that count? I'm not quite a millennial, but I'm pretty enticed. That sounds good if my Uber's waiting for me.
I have to state the obvious here. I don't know if you've noticed, but all three of us are not in our Deloitte building. I wonder what that says. No comment needed. Thank you.
Yeah, we're all pretty mobile. So back to your question about are we at the point with IoT and ERP systems, and I would even say the original internet. I was talking to someone recently, and we were talking about how computers were all different formats, and we had trouble connecting to the internet, and we were creating all these interface apps and all this kind of stuff in order to connect to the internet. And ERP systems, frankly, I'm not sure they totally have achieved their objective, because I was learning about robotic processing and how we were going to do these new robotics in order to process spreadsheets, because people were doing spreadsheets off of their ERP system, and that was going to be a big productivity gain. And I'm thinking, we haven't really done the full gamut of what ERP was supposed to do. It's still not there yet. The dream isn't there. The internet's probably a much better dream and a much better success story. We are all connected. So do I think connected buildings, we have a ways to go. Process controllers, getting on common platforms, consolidating the data in the right way, all things that we need to be working on, and it'll come.
Do you see any momentum in your space specifically as it relates to integrators, whether it's platforms or web services or any kind of technology that's leading in that space, or is it pretty agnostic at this point?
There are a few people who are taking on segments. So I mentioned Schneider Electric. They have a backbone. They will connect their electrical equipment, but they'll also collect HVACs and elevators and so forth to put it all together. So there's those types of groupings. But, you know, they don't do parking. They don't do lighting solutions. So you're starting to see consolidation of groupings, and hopefully those groupings will get more and more sized up, and it'll get a lot easier as time goes on.
So it sounds like to me, you talked about this before, you compared it to the internet. I often joke that today we call it the Internet of Things, and I think it's actually going to go away. We're just going to keep calling it again the internet, and it's just going to be, there's going to be people and things connected to that. I just heard this really interesting example from Schindler elevators in Europe, where they've connected all their elevators to it because they needed to do preventive maintenance and so forth. You talked about machine learning and artificial intelligence. How does that play into smart buildings?
Oh, I think big time, to be honest. And, you know, even that example, to me, is the beginning of a journey. So they've connected so that they can do the maintenance. What's really cool is if they can connect to the service provider who does all the maintenance, and they monitor, and the service provider monitors, and you have someone who actually consolidates all your maintenance into one service, then it starts to get exciting for me. I just think we're at the early stages of that type of thinking. The other thing that's going on is, for example, elevators. I know Otis Elevator, when they actually go down, they actually collect energy. And that energy is stored so that they can use it to push the elevator up. So they're now starting to think about these type of connections and finding ways to actually improve their energy performance, their efficiency of the machine, and building a platform for maintenance, energy monitoring, serviceability, so forth. So,
wow, really cool way to take something so basic mechanically, and by utilizing a little bit of tech, have such a great outcome. I just, stories like that excite me because it's right on our fingertips, and we say this every week, I think, Robert, but you know, the technology is there. It's not something rocket science at this point. It's just finding smart ways to utilize it, and that's an excellent application. I want to like install an elevator in my house now. I have 5 floors.
I'm curious, Joann.
How big is your house?
It's a little big.
One thing that you don't see done that you would like to see done, what would that be?
You know, I think the key thing is I truly believe we're heading to the point where I really don't want to be carrying devices. And I think women especially are handicapped in lots of ways, because when I take this iPhone and I put it in my purse, everybody tries to figure out why they can't connect to me. Well, frankly, I don't hear it in my purse as loud as it might be set up. And I'm thinking to myself, why do I want to be carrying this thing? Why don't I have a projection system that I access the internet? Why do I now, why can't I talk to the building or the plane or whatever the case may be? I don't want these devices. I really want to be able to think, and I want to make changes, and I want to be able to access when I want to access. I don't think these platforms do us the best job at that.
Are you willing to become connected yourself in exchange?
I'll put a little bio thing in me. I don't care. I mean, frankly, we're all connected now. The reality is everybody knows what I do now. I just have to accept that reality. And if I want all this convenience, that's the price I pay. So I'll take a bio connection, and I'll be good with that.
I'm with you too, but I know it scares the crap out of most people, so I had to ask.
Yeah, no, I just think we have to actually, when we get to bio connections, we probably have better security. There's only me.
So we're coming to the bottom of our time. Joann, any closing thoughts? Anything we haven't asked you that you want to talk about? Give us your thoughts before we close it out.
I'll add to that. What gets you most excited in this space, Joann? I mean, you seem like you're on the cutting edge. We all can geek out forever, but what really are you looking forward to the most?
I've been involved in advanced technologies and what they mean for us as experiences my whole career. And I'm sitting here and I'm saying, I really want to be involved in the next 10 years. The problem is I'll probably be retired before that happens, but at least from Deloitte. I just think today's the day that we actually get to make a real change. And we need to recognize that us old farts like me, it's the future is ahead of us, and we need to get on with it. And I just think it's an exciting time. So I'm not sure you didn't ask all the right questions so much as help me and the millennials, help us understand how we can prove this case to the people making important decisions. And if there's ideas and thoughts on that, I think now's the time to come forward. We need to move forward.
Well, thank you so much. We are coming to the bottom of our time.
Thank you for joining us, though. This was interesting. I want to move to Amsterdam.
There's a few other examples.
I actually visited the office. It's really cool. It actually, literally, the building has an edge. So you can stand there. It's glass. So you can look at the edge on the side. It's really cool. It's a very cool building. Mm-hmm. So I just want to thank Joann for joining us. Thank you so much. It was great having you. I also want to put out an invite. Please forward and ask your friends and colleagues to join us every Friday, 9 a.m. Central. 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. Yep. We have coffee with Mr. IoT. Next week, you can watch us with Maximilian Schreck. And if you didn't get a chance to see it live, please find it on YouTube on my channel. You can watch the recording. And with that, thank you, Joann. Thank you, Rachel. Have a wonderful Friday. Bye, guys.
Have a good one.